Hi guys, Will Terry here, and I think this video is going to be called How to Get Freelance Work in Depth or something like that. I don't know what I'm going to call it yet, because this one is actually a weird video in that I'm telling you about a video that I'm going to be making with SVS, but I'm going to go more in depth in this one than I am in that one in a certain area. So I don't really know what to call it. So anyway, if you're coming to this video anytime after the 20th, then this will already have happened. So, but for those of you who are watching this in the next 24, 48 hours, this third Thursday, and you guys know that I do svslearn.com. And so this third Thursday is the title of our third Thursday is going to be how to get freelance work. And so what I want to do in this one, though, is actually go into areas that I can't go into because I won't have time to go into on Thursday. Also, it is a way to help you guys understand that that's going to happen, or that that's already available on our website. So I will explain in this video what I'm going to be doing in that one, but I'm also going to go into, like I said, into areas that I can't go into for the lack of time. Also, I'm going to this is more like I'll just show you my outline. So here is, this one's going to be shown in the third Thursday video presentation that I'll be doing with Jake Parker. I'm not sure if Lee White is going to be joining us. I know he's been traveling around the country right now. So whether he's going to be on that one or not is another story. But anyway, one of the biggest questions that we get, that I get personally, that we get at SVS is, how do I get work? And so we're going to go into depth on that. Now, we've done some of these in the past, like you'll notice in the outlines. I realize as I always grab my nose, I wonder if people are thinking that I do cocaine or something, but it's not. I've got these bad allergies. It's like my nose, and it's almost like it knows when I'm going to get on camera. That's when it starts itching. So anyway, let's just go through these, and I'm just going to talk about them because, I'm going to basically shine this up on Thursday, but again, I won't be able to go into it. I'm going to go into one in depth on Thursday. I'll get to that. So let's just start with the first one. Show a portfolio to an art director. The reason that I put this whole list out there as well is because all of these are valid ways to get work, but some of them are more efficient and some of them work better than others. I might also add that a bunch of you guys in the comment section have been telling me that my camera's dirty, and then I finish making the video, or I make the video and I put it up, and then I read your comments, and then I'm like, oh yeah, I got to check my camera, but I'm on my phone or I'm on my tablet somewhere else, and then when I come home I forget. Well, my camera was dirty. So now I think it looks a lot better. Anyway, I'm looking at myself right now. Looks all right. So thank you for that. You guys are looking out for me. I appreciate that. So showing your portfolio to an art director. What's good and bad about that? The good thing about doing that is that if you can get in to see an art director, if you can get in to see an editor, your success rate, to me, from my experience, the success rate on a personal contact is always higher, and that's because we're humans, and we like to go with people that we know. If we get a good feeling about someone, we're more inclined to go with them. You have somebody come over and work on your house or do some service for you, and you got a good vibe. You like the way they work, and everything worked out good. You're probably going to call them again. So showing a portfolio is great. Problem is, it's really hard to get in to see anybody these days, and it's been like that for decades. Art directors and editors are overworked. And one of the things that I'm going to talk about on Thursday is, or that I've already talked about because it's already past Thursday, is that they don't need us. They don't need you, and they don't need me. Well, they need you. They need the you that you can become. the you that's going to create something amazing. They need that you. They don't need the you that isn't producing amazing stuff if you're not already producing amazing stuff, right? So they don't need that you. And there's tons of people like that are trying to get their attention. And so they have decided, and rightly so. I mean, like, if you could understand, if we could all like just be a fly on the wall and see the average day of an editor or an art director at a publishing company, be it a magazine or a book publisher or a comic book publisher, we would probably see some crazy busy people that are working really hard, and they just don't have extra time. And you have to remember that they have access to tens of thousands of illustrators that they can find online. They can just, from the comfort of their home. Now my dog's starting to puff up. Hey, I got a squirt gun, so quiet. See, I got this now. It's a subtle little reminder that the humans are in control. So they're just not going to make time for us, and it's just really hard to get in the door. And a lot of times, art directors and editors just won't set up an appointment unless you live in a big city, unless you live near a place where you can easily, go in and try to meet with somebody. It's probably not worth the time and money to travel to be able to do that, because they're just insulated. They'll make you drop your portfolio off, and you'll never get to meet with them. And so that personal contact opportunity is going to be lost. So that is a way, and if you can meet with somebody, do it, because it definitely works, and I've definitely gotten work that way more than once. The second one there, have a large social media presence. Okay, so number one, Jake Parker did a Third Thursday presentation on that, and I thought he knocked it out of the park. It was called, I believe it's called How to Get Your First 10,000 Followers. And if you haven't seen that, the way to see that is to go to our svslearn.com site, and I've got links to it below. And you can just buy that presentation. It's pretty cheap. I think it's like $10, or you can subscribe, and it's part of the subscription. So this is another thing where it's like it's part of the outline, but I'm not going to go into it, obviously, because he did that, and I'm not going to go into it Thursday either. So have a large social media presence. Okay, great. But the thing that I really want to do with my video, the one that I'm going to do on Thursday, is I really want to show how you can be proactive and do something today. Start doing something right now, because you can't just have a large social media presence. You can't just, okay, I really want to work on it. And that's something that you have to build over time. Okay. So what I really want to go into are things that you can do right now. Attend conferences and get your portfolio reviewed. And I've mentioned on this channel before several people who have gone to SCBWI conferences. I'll link SCBWI also, and who have gotten work because they do portfolio reviews. We will be talking about using them in other ways to get work. But as far as like going to the conference, that's another thing. You can't just do that tomorrow. If there's not a conference tomorrow, you can't just go and get that done. So that's something that I believe you should really work into your schedule and try to make time for it. I think the national ones are great, and I think the local ones are great. If you're ready, if you're prepared. Some people have said, well, will you look at my portfolio and tell me, is it a waste of time for me to go to SCBWI? It's an impossible question to answer, because some people, we never totally feel ready, and so we'll probably always hold ourselves back, and sometimes the thing you need to do is unfortunately you need to spend some money and go, and because when you go, sometimes you learn more about yourself, you learn more about the experience just from being there, and you learn how other people are prepared, and you go, oh, I should have done that. And so you're more prepared for the last one. Now, some people say, well, that's a waste of money. I'd rather just be prepared. So tell me what I need to be prepared. Well, I can't. There's so many things. And then what you're doing is going to be different from what I'm doing and what someone else is doing. And you can look at it, I would say, a lot like school, so how much does college cost right now? For attending a state college, you might spend what, $5,000 a semester. So you might spend anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000 a year, maybe more in some states. And so maybe you're spending, $50,000 on your education. Do you think anyone can say every single dollar of that was well spent? Or, boy, every day that I went, I learned something new? No, there are days you go to college where you learn nothing, or where you're reviewing stuff, or where you feel like it was a total waste of time. You don't go to college for one day or for 1 week. You're going there for the totality of it, and what I like to tell my students is you're coming to my class for 2 to 3 specific moments, because of all the classes that you're going to have. You're going to remember my class for 1, 2, or 3 things that I said, or that I helped you with, or that something clicked because of something that we did or something I said. And those things are going to stay with you for the rest of your life. And if you're constantly missing class, you could be missing one of those moments. So you pay like a la carte at my school where I teach at UVU. I think a class is like $800 or $900. So, $800 or $900. Wow, that's a lot of money. I'm paying for 1, 2, or 3 moments. That seems really expensive. Well, but if there are moments that change your life, if there are moments that make you, end up getting a career where you're making a lot of money. And by the way, I'm going to mention this on Thursday because I was poking around, and I believe it's Laura Numeroff. Actually, I was wrong. It was Felicia Bond that I was thinking of. So Laura Numeroff wrote If You Give a Mouse a Cookie, that whole series. And Felicia Bond is the illustrator who illustrated it. And I was just looking, I was poking around, and something came up, and I was like, how many of those books have they sold? And I was looking on her wiki, and I believe, if I remember correctly, they've sold somewhere in the neighborhood of 10 to 20 million copies of those books. And I think that Wikipedia article was written, I think it's a little bit out of date. But anyway, if you're the illustrator and you're getting 50 cents a book, let's just say for kicks and giggles, 50 cents a book, because that's about what it is, 75 cents. I mean, on 10 million at 50 cents a book, that's $5 million. If they sold 20 million, that's like $10 million. So, if Felicia Bond was going to school and you asked her, like, hey, was art school worth it? I mean, like, you paid $30,000, $40,000, $50,000. She probably didn't, because when she went to school, it was probably less. But was it money well worth it? Probably you'd get a yes answer from her. So yeah, I mean, for what it's worth, attending a conference, if you spend $100 or $200 or $300 attending a conference, and you're like, well, I wasn't totally prepared. But then you attended one the next year and the next year, and then you end up getting published. I mean, I don't think you're going to look back and go, that's money wasted. So I think, and I get it. Like, if money is really, really super tight, which it is with some people, then saying, yeah, sure, for you, $300, $400 might not be that much money. But for me, I get it. And you want to make sure that you're, spending your money wisely. So, you should be doing the work at home. You should be working really hard on your portfolio. You should be looking at what other people are doing, and trying to find out and see, how yours stacks up against theirs. One thing that I have really come to realize from teaching is that, and there's no real easy way to say this, but I am definitely not seeing the same thing that a beginning artist is seeing. When I look at their work, when they look at their work, we're seeing completely different things. And I've realized this over time. We tend to, when we're starting out, for some reason, we compare our own work with our peers more than we compare it with the professional work that's out there. And I think that's like a natural thing. We kind of tend to ignore the stuff that's being done, or we aren't able to see the value and the genius behind a lot of the professional work that's being done, and we're not able to value some of the simplistic, elegant things that are being done by professional artists, to a way where, we say, well, in our minds, well, anybody could do that, or I could do that. And so I guess what I'm getting at is it is hard to self-evaluate. And I don't know really how to tell you to do that if you're not capable of doing that, other than just understand that that's a skill that's going to get better and better over time. And I think what you need to do is really side by side compare your work to others. So if you're going to be attending those conferences, again, this is stuff that I'm not going to be able to talk about because I won't have time to talk about in our third Thursday. And I really do hate the videos that are all about, buy my video. I don't want this to be like an infomercial. I want this to be a standalone video that really kind of goes over the broader sense. What I'm going to do I'll just say right now, because I'm going to skip down, but on Thursday, I'm really going to talk about generating your mailing list and getting a mailing list dialed in, and how to get those names on there. Specifically, like, we're going to go and get names and put them on the list on Thursday, because that's something that I think a lot of people, they don't know how to do it. They're afraid of the work that's involved. Anytime you work, an analogy I'm going to use is Charles Barkley when he says move without the ball. Moving without the ball when you're playing basketball is something it's hard to coach. It's hard to do because you're not going to make the highlight reel. You're going to have to move without the ball a lot before you get the pass, before you're in the right place. So there's going to be a lot of plays, a lot of times down the court where you're doing this work and it's not paying off. And that's the analogy, moving without the ball. And that's why Barkley was so good, is he says, one of the simplest things he said was, you got to go get the ball. You got to move without the ball. If you stay planted and wait for the ball to come to you, you're going to be covered and they're not going to pass it to you. You've already got a guy covering you. So you got to do the hard work of doing things, and that's generating this mailing list. You have to do a lot of work if you want this. You're gonna have to move without the ball and not get paid monetarily for every hour you spend, but that money can come in later on down the road, or it might not ever. There's no guarantees. This is why it's so tough. This is why there are a few that are doing really well, is because the hard workers and the smart workers and the people that persevere usually are the ones that get rewarded in this industry. Okay, moving on to number 4 there, tabling at conventions. That's something that I've added, something that a lot of other artists have added, and I've had a few little freelance things come in from it. I know of a lot of other artists that get a lot of freelance depending on what they do. The stuff that I do is so character based that it's not really lending itself to getting a lot of good freelance work, I would say. But I've had, I had Todd McFarlane's group contact me, and we're working on possibly a book cover that may or may not come from my time in Phoenix at the Phoenix Convention Center, or Phoenix Comic Con. Whether that happens or not, I'm not sure, but that'd be a cool story. If it does, I'll talk about it here when I can. But I like to include all these things because when we talk about getting freelance work, it's not like it's not like you just go on like monster.com and dial up a job, or go on LinkedIn and just it's for people that are going through as web developers right now in school, from what I understand, that's a pretty hot field again right now. And if you go and learn the right computer languages like Angular JS or some of those newer languages, a lot of students are getting recruited while they're still in school. So I have one of the web developers that worked on our first 1.0 version of svslearn.com. Got recruited out of school. And I had another guy that lived down the block from me that the same thing happened. He was working and trying to figure out how to finish school while he was getting paid really good money. because a company came and just said we need developers, and he interviewed and got the job. So it's not like that for us, right? So I put all these things down on this list so that we can understand that there's a lot of things that we could be doing day in and day out. And as you are, as you're trying to transition into freelance, to me, there's always something that can be done, right? Especially in the first 10 or 20 years. It's like there was always things for me to work on. And I always had to be self-motivated enough to, make an action list and check things off and constantly be getting stuff done. So, tabling at conventions is just one other way. And that it's kind of slang. Tabling is slang for, buying a table or renting a table, and displaying your artwork and selling prints and whatever you're selling, postcards and stuff like that. Okay. Advertising on illustration websites. And there again, and I know I've talked about this before, but I'm not going to name names because, I don't want to create any enemies. There's nothing gained there. But there are a lot of illustration websites that will take your money and allow you to put a portfolio up in exchange. And then, they'll send out mailings. They'll do a little bit of advertising. But let's face it, if that were your job, let's say, you have to reverse engineer these kind of business models, right? So, let's say that that's your gig, is you're going to create this website and you're going to invite other people to put their portfolios on it, and you're going to charge them $300 a year or something. That seems to be about the going rate, $300 or $400 a year or something last time I checked. So let's say, do some simple math. Let's say you have 100 people that sign up. They all paid $300, so you end up getting $30,000. Let's say it's 1,000, right? So instead of 30,000, you got $300,000. Okay, so now it's the beginning of the year, and everybody renews, and you get your $300,000. Now, how much of that are you going to spend on advertising, right? Like getting that website out. Well, the more you spend, the less money you make during the year. Now, the smart businessman would say, yes, but I'm building this up, and I really want my illustration clients to be getting a lot of work. So I almost want to spend as much of this money on advertising as I possibly can and still be able to barely eat myself, so that they're getting tons of work, and then they're going to tell their friends, and then the following year I'm going to double that amount, and I'll have $600,000, and then and maybe I'll even buy a little bit more advertising, but maybe I'll pay myself a little more. That's the hope that you have, when in reality, I doubt that's what happens. I think that the incentive is, I got to pay my web guy, I got to pay this, that, and the other, and gee, this money seems pretty neat to have. Maybe I won't spend it on advertising. Maybe I don't know. This is all speculation. But for whatever. I've tried them before when they first came out. I tried a few of them and really didn't get. I got a few tiny little inquiries that I turned down because they were so low paying. And the biggest problem with those sites, it's very attractive because one of the easiest things that you can do to feel like you're doing something, right? I am doing it. I'm out there. I'm an illustrator now because I paid to put my work on this website, and so you feel good and you feel like you did something. But spending money is actually the easiest thing you can do. What did you have to do? You just sent the money via PayPal or whatever. I mean, like, it really is easy, and because it's easy, little is usually gained from things that are really easy, because it's easy for everyone. And you have a lot of people that are doing it, and the people that are the best illustrators out there, they're not spending money on it because they're just getting repeat work from their illustration clients that love what they did before, and they're going to get hired again, and they've got contracts sometimes years out, and so they're not spending money on it. So who's spending money on those websites? Well, it's usually the second tier, the second, third, and fourth tier. And so if you're an art buyer, reverse engineer it. You're an art buyer. And I need an artist. I need a really good artist. So where do you go? Well, are you going to click on that paid illustration website? You probably won't, because you're not going to find the best people there. There are some really good people there. Definitely some really good people there. But because anyone can spend $300, I mean, like, let's face it, even though $300, sure, it's a chunk of money, but a lot of people can find $300. It used to be $3,000 for a page back in the day when we had to advertise in books, and the quality, if you could just look back 20, 25, 30 years and see books like Showcase and Workbook, the quality in those books was it was one page. I mean, it was like an illustration annual. It was just beautiful printing, beautiful illustration, and you look at it and just see, like, wow, almost every person in here is probably getting a lot of work, and almost all of them were, because they had to gamble $3,000 to buy one single page to put their artwork in. And there were several years where I paid for the double page spread. I paid $6,000 or $7,000 a year to put my work in those books. And there was a couple years where I went in Workbook and Showcase at the same time. And yeah, and I got that money back, plus probably times 4 or 5 times. So one year I made probably 8 times the money that I spent putting in there. And I would ask the clients that would call. I would say, where did you see me? Oh, we saw you in the Workbook, or we saw you in Showcase, and you could track it. But the best clients were going to those books and hiring out of those books. Then the internet came on, illustration websites came out, and the cost of entry just basically made it so that anybody who ever wanted to advertise in there can afford it. And that was basically the end of that. I saw that coming as soon as the internet came out, and as soon as the first site came out, I said, well, this isn't going to be good. What they really need to do is curate it, and like a gallery, and just say, no, we're not going to just let anybody in here. But the problem with curating it is, once, and it's the same problem that galleries have sometimes, is, people want to see some new work, and they're like, well, if I go to this gallery, I already know who's in there. I've already been in there a bunch of times. They represent these certain people, and I want to see something new. And so they stop going to that gallery. Sometimes that's what happens. And so the same thing with these websites, I think, happens is, you go there a few times, you see the same people, and you kind of get an idea of what's there, and then you're done. The neat thing about social media like Instagram, when an art director cruises around there, is there's always this possibility that they're going to discover something amazing, and their time won't be wasted. That there's this chance. It's like fishing, It's like I could fish for the same old crappy fish, or I could go out in the ocean and maybe I'll catch some monster fish or something. I don't know. That's my take on it. Would love to know what you guys think in the comments. If somebody has a really good experience with illustration websites, I'd love to know. Okay. The next one is selling prints on sites like Etsy. And I think that could be really good too. I put that down there because, my friend Sarah Jane, she got her start in children's books from her Etsy store because the stuff that she was putting in Etsy was pretty illustrative, and the right art director happened to see her stuff in there, and the rest is history. So all these things are part of your total mark. I mean, this could be. It could be called, how to market yourself, or how to market your illustration to get publishing work or something, The next one, getting an illustration rep or agent. We also talked about that. So that was a third Thursday that Lee White did, and he went in depth, and he had his agent talking on our broadcast on that one. That would be a good one to check out. So I'm definitely not going to go into that. But that's a huge part of how to get freelance illustration work. The next one, write and submit your own stories. And I think I've talked about this before. I know I've talked about this before on this channel. And that is, as illustrators, we actually have an advantage. And the advantage is that you can consume an illustration in a split second. I mean, you can, within 1 or 2 seconds, you can tell whether you're interested or not. And that's pretty cool, especially when we're trying to attract art buyers like art directors and editors and creative directors, because where time is valuable, time is money, getting them to read a manuscript is pretty difficult. A lot of publishing houses will not accept an unsolicited manuscript, but everyone, and this leads right into the postcards, the next one down, and that is that everyone gets mail. The U.S. Postal Service delivers mail to everyone, and to my knowledge, I don't think you can turn that off. I think Kramer tried to do that on Seinfeld one time, and they had the post office was after him. It was kind of a funny episode. I'm dating myself with Seinfeld probably, but anyway, so the cool thing about a postcard, and this is a lot of what I'm going to be talking about on Thursday, on the third Thursday, is that an art director or an editor and an art buyer, they have to see your image if it hits their desk. So if it makes it to their desk, if it gets through, sometimes they'll have interns, or sometimes they'll have the receptionist kind of sorting through, because they get a lot of mail. Some get a lot more than others. But if you get your postcard with the right name on it and you get it in the right place, they have to see it before they throw it away. That's huge, because if you send in an unsolicited manuscript right now, it'll go in what they call the slush pile. And the slush pile is basically this huge stack. I should do an illustration on the slush pile, but I picture like the basically that big room in Indiana Jones, Raiders of the Lost Ark, where the Ark was placed in the end of the show, in this huge government warehouse and just kind of forgotten about. That's basically the slush pile. And whenever let's say the publisher, they've done everything they can possibly think of, and they have their interns, working on, putting stamps on this, cutting that, mailing this stuff back to artists. I don't know all the things they have them doing there, Xeroxing this for the company party. When everything is possibly totally finished, and the intern comes back and goes, now what do you want me to do? Well, did you do this? Yes. Well, you could go into the slush pile and start reading manuscripts. And so that's kind of, how that's treated. Now, the crazy thing is there are slush pile success stories that you'll hear from time to time when you go to these SCBWI conferences, and they'll talk about, my book, this book that I'm holding up right here that got published, came out of the slush pile. And editors are really proud of that sometimes too, when they can brag that they found this diamond in the rough. But it's pretty much, it's looked at as this bane of existence for manuscripts. And so the cool thing with postcards, with us, with we illustrators, is we don't have to wait. Our stuff goes in there and they make a decision on it right away. We have a huge leg up. And so why do I say write and submit your own stories? Well, because the publishers love one person, author, illustrator, coming from one person. They seem to really love that person. I'm not quite sure exactly why. I have my speculations. One would be, and this is probably not the biggest reason, but a smaller reason would be that it's probably cheaper to work with them, because they will definitely give you a smaller advance on the writing and the illustrating. They'll kind of combine that, and they'll get a discount. So they won't be sending quite as much money out. But with the bigger publishers, I doubt that's even a consideration that much, even though, sure, they're going to save a few $1,000s. But I think the bigger reason is that because you're the author and the illustrator, you actually can communicate with yourself a little bit better than two individual people. The author tends to overwrite. The illustrator tends to second guess and perhaps illustrate too much. But when it comes from one person, and when it's a really good project, the illustrator can put on both hats and think, okay, well, I'm not going to write this word because I'm going to show it in the illustration. I'm not going to illustrate that because I'm going to say it in the writing. And those often the author illustrator person often wins the Caldecott. In fact, I think I was looking a while back, and I think it was, I think more single author illustrators have won the Caldecott, but I'd have to double check that. At least lately. And so the reason to write and submit your own stories is that, it's hard enough to get an illustration job where they have to match you up with someone else. But if you come in there with a really creative idea, you basically are creating your own illustration job with your writing. So it's kind of like you're getting to know these people on another level. And it, if you can send in that postcard and maybe it says, here's the, maybe even on the postcard on the back, it says something like, and I've never tried this, but you could say, this is for the story with the story's name or something. I'd love to send you the manuscript or something like that. And you can backdoor your way in, so that's another way. And a lot of illustrators have their start by illustrating their own story, and then they also get asked to illustrate other people's stories while they're writing their next one. So there's a lot of a lot of illustrators that do both. They illustrate their own, they also illustrate others. Okay, so mailing postcards to art buyers. This is, and we've already glanced over this a little bit, but it is really that way of getting your work in front of the people who are making the decisions. And so what we're going to go in depth on this third Thursday is basically the hows, all going all the way through it, and but focusing mostly on generating that list so that you know what you need to do to get that list, to create the card, where to create the card, how to create the card, how to send it out, what to do, how to manage your list, how to manage the cards when they come back with the wrong address on them, or forwarding order expired or things like that. And then finally, the last one is tweet to editors and art directors. We're also going to be talking about that on Thursday, on how to do that, kind of etiquette and things to do, things not to do, stuff like that. So anyway, I hope that this video had a lot of value, other than, it is a precursor into the next one to go into more depth on those postcards. But, one of the big things that I like to always mention whenever I'm making a video like this, especially the one that we're going to be doing on generating the mailing list, is, this is my short list. I'm sure that you guys can come up with other things that could go on this list, other ways that you can find freelance illustration work. And one of the biggest things to keep in mind is that whenever you see a list like this, it's not, you don't need to just go through that list and go, well, there's nothing else I can do. I mean, part of, if you're an artist already, that means you're creative. It means you're nurturing that creative side. But don't be afraid to nurture your creative side on the marketing side too. I mean, I remember a story when I was I think I was just right out of school, where this female illustrator found out that she tried to get in to see this editor at the New York Times, and couldn't get an appointment, couldn't get in there, and wanted to show her portfolio and stuff. And so she actually went to the great lengths of stalking this guy. Now, I don't recommend this, but she waited and followed this guy at lunchtime to a restaurant, went in and asked to be seated at a table just adjacent to him, and just started looking at her portfolio where he could see what she was doing. And the funny thing is, he actually knew what she was doing. He's like, he's telling his friend, look, this woman here, this girl has stalked me and is trying to get me to look at her portfolio. So I think I'm actually going to do it because it's really creative. And she got work from that. So she ended up getting in the conversation. The guy called her out and said, you stalked me here, didn't you? And she got all sheepish and everything. So I'm going to enjoy a breath mint. Anyway, stuff like that. I mean, like there's I'm sure there are tons of things that you could do that, haven't been thought of, or that other people haven't done, creative things. I think I've talked about Brian Lies before. in his creative guerrilla marketing of his Bats on the Beach and Bats in the Library books, and getting them on NPR, and that's a great story too. But I'm pretty sure I've told that one on a previous video. So if you haven't seen that one, go back and look at some of my older videos. Anyway, that's about all I have on this one. I hope to see you on Third Thursday, or hope that you can catch our broadcast if you can't catch it live. By the way, it's free. I forgot to mention that. If you can catch it on Thursday, if you catch them live, they're free, and it's a webinar. We use GoToMeeting or GoToWebinar, and the way to get signed up is to go to our Facebook page, which is Society of Visual Storytelling. So just go on Facebook and go on Facebook and Google. Go on Facebook and Facebook Society of Visual Storytelling, and scroll down. You'll see the post talking about how to get freelance illustration work coming up for Thursday, the 20th, I believe, the 20th of July, 2017. And there's a link there. You can sign up. Basically, all you have to do is register, and then I think it gives you an email reminder, like an hour or 10 minutes or something before the broadcast starts. And then all you have to do is just click the join when it starts, and you can ask questions in there. Sometimes we have too many people where we can't get to all the questions, but we always have a lot of fun. And so we really hope to really go in depth on this one and empower you guys to be able to figure out how to get your postcard mailings ready, and your email list and all that good stuff. Not email list, your mailing list. So that's about it. And thanks for watching, and go out there and make great art.